Hi, my name is Rob Blackburn from Electrix. This is my friend Dan who will be DJing. I'm here to demonstrate to you the brand new line of signal processors. The technology that's used in these units are normally only found in high-tech recording studios, but now the DJs can actually use these live in front of the crowd. The other application, of course, is in the studio for production of dance music. These units are ideal for all types of electronic music, from hip-hop to techno to house, trance, electronic music, techno. Electrix features real hands-on ergonomic controls that can be controlled live. Today we're going to show you three new products: the Warp Factory, the Ultimate Vocoder, the Filter Factory high-order analog filter, and the MoEffects time synchronized multi-effects unit. So I'm now going to briefly run through the Filter Factory. Starting at the right-hand side, we have a bypass, a very simple bypass button, which will bypass the affected sound with the original sound that's coming into the unit. Slightly to the left of that, we have the effect mix, which will mix the non-affected sound with the affected sound. So here we have the LFO section with a toggle switch, a waveform toggle switch. The LFO will automatically sweep the frequency for you. We have different patterns here, for instance a triangular pattern. Also we have an envelope follow on it as well. For the timing of the LFO can be controlled by the speed control knob here. You'll see the light flashing, turn it up and down. It's now very slow. Another great feature here is the tap tempo. So the DJ will be listening to the tempo of the music and then can tap this in. And now this will override the speed, and now we'll be oscillating at the tapped in tempo. Here we have a division section. This will quantize the LFO. So for every one flash of the LFO, represented here on the tap tempo knob, we will get one cycle of whichever pattern that you have selected. But if we go now to 2 to 1, it's now going to do 2 cycles to every one flash, and it goes to 3 to 1, just triplets, the da 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 effect, and then 4, and then 6. And moving on quickly to the depth control. This is the depth of the cycle. This is how far the frequency will move up before it drops down again. So when the depth is on 0, there will be no oscillation. So it'd be effectively turning the LFO section off. Single shot is a great feature. This is, when engaged, will stop the LFO modulating up and down all the time. This is now going to be activated by the momentary button. When the momentary button is pressed or triggered, this will then do a single shot of the waveform, whichever one you have selected. Finally, on the end here, we've incorporated a buzz, a distortion buzz block, which is a great effect for just breaking up the LFO resonating tones. Again, with an engage and a momentary button. This also has a double use, which is a transformer effect. Distortion is on this buzz control here, and then we have the volume of that distortion here on the trim. We have extruded aluminium paneling and die cast on the end. It's a real nice heavy piece of metal. On the back we have an international power supply control voltage inputs. If you've got an old Mini Moog, you can remotely control the functions. We have a MIDI channel selector, very easy to use. Balanced and unbalanced 1/4" inputs, left and right. We have the RCA phono standard, a line phono switch, toggle switch here, so the DJ can be queuing up the effects before they go out live. These racking plates at the side will actually come off. As you can probably see, it really is a nice looking piece of equipment. So now I'm going to show you the Warp Factory, which is the ultimate vocoder. Unlike any other vocoder you've probably heard or seen before, again with all these really easy to use large ergonomic controls. On the left hand side here we have the formant input. The vocoder works on the formant, which is the shape of the voice. It's like the A, E, I, O, U sound of the voice. So we can input a formant, and that formant change will then be affecting the music or the signal that's passing through it. Right on the front panel we have an XLR, female XLR socket, which we can plug the microphone straight into there with no problem at all. And now I'll be talking to a mic, there's a gain control, and you can see your voice being represented here on the little LEDs at the top there to get a nice level.
Whoa, yo, 1, 2, 3, Electrix Warp Factory.
The formant input selection can be made at the front with a selection switch here. We do have a de-esser built in. If you are sending a vocal track through the back, we can get rid of the sibilance of the voice, the S and the C's. And then after that we have the auto setting. Now this is where, this is personally my favourite. This is going to take the signal coming through the back and use that as the formant input. But moving along slightly to the right of the formant input selection knob, we have the high-low band selector. And then we have the very simple 3 separate controls. We have the gender, which is the male, female control. And then we have the cue, the quantity, and then we have the order. So these are changing the parameters of the vocoder. Moving along to the right of that, we have a robot pitch oscillator. It's the small knob at the top here, and then below that we have the noise generator. Now what these are going to do is going to generate a sound with inside the unit, and then overlay that with the music that's coming through from the vinyl or the CD or whatever signal is being passed through. To the right of that we have the formant freeze button. This is a great feature for live use. The formant freeze will freeze the shape, wherever it's at, it will freeze it, and then it will continue the sound. And so you can then still manipulate it and give a real nice sort of clean, smooth swipes. Just like on the Filter Factory, we have a very easy to use effect mix. The operator will really use this live. You know, all these controls are very easy. You sort of really are playing the unit like a musician, like an instrument. The one last feature here we have is a source kill. If it's on, then you'll hear the music, and then when you speak, there'll be affected sound. It's like a wet-dry automatic mix. Now finally I'm going to move on to the Electrix Mo effects, which is the time synchronized effects. This is a multi-effects unit. We incorporate a distortion block here, a flange, a tremolo and a delay. Unlike the other units where we have a wet and dry mix, a master wet and dry mix for the effect, we have now an individual wet and dry mix for each effect. These effects are running in parallel, so the sound is coming in and then being routed through each effect separately. So the distortion, again we have an engage button, just like on the other units, very on-off, and then a momentary. This is a great flange effect, again with the wet and dry mix here, level mix, engage and disengage, momentary. cycle speed of the flange. This is how quickly the flange will oscillate up and down. The depth. This is how far the depth will cycle up and down, just similar to the depth on the filter factory. And then we have a regen button, which is like a feedback effect. When it's on all the way to the left, it's a very clean flange effect. As we turn it up more and more, it's a real sort of ringy, robot-y type flange effect. On all the rest of the blocks, we have a band selector. Now this is where it really starts to make the unit stand apart from other effects units. We can very easily select the frequency, so we can go from high to mid to low. So we can be flanging the hi-hat and at the same time tremoloing the mid and delaying the low all at the same time. So, and of course you can be changing these real time. And remember, all these controls will be sending out MIDI control change MIDI messages. So all these can be recorded into your sequencer and then edited again later, giving a real live effect. Moving on to the tremolo. Tremolo is an effect where it brings dynamically brings the sound in and out. It's like turning the volume up and down. Again with the engage and the momentary, so you can drop it in and out. Again with the cycle speed, frequency band selector, and the depth. We can set the speed manually, just like on the filter. But if we hit sync, the sync button, we can now do another tap tempo. And then finally on the right hand side we have the delay section. Delay or echo, so we actually sample a portion of the track or the sound or whatever signal's coming through and then repeat it. And it will do that at whatever speed you've set it at, so you can get a real quick delay sound or sample 2 or 3 seconds of the sound and then loop it. We can use the dry kill toggle selection down here underneath the tap tempo. This gives you different ways of bringing in the affected sound. So that's been a really very brief overview of the brand new Electrix lines of hands-on effect units that we've got here. To reiterate, they really are very simple to use. I mean, they're because they're very simple to use, you can get on them straight away and really have fun with playing with them straight off the bat. You don't have to get the manual out, you don't have to spend 6 months learning them before you can really use them. I'd say within 10 minutes, half an hour, you're on there playing with them and having fun. So I'd just like to thank my DJ Dan. And I'm Rob Blackburn, and thank you very much.